The Houthis are a military proxy of the Iranian government in Tehran, along with Hezbollah in Lebanon and Hamas in Gaza. These are the three places or the three organizations that Iran has used to spread its malign influence across the Middle East. So to hear that Iran is withdrawing support from the Houthis is very significant. We know that the Israelis have pretty much destroyed and written off Hezbollah and Hamas. And with Iran now withdrawing support for the Houthis, Iran is sort of going very much back into itself. I mean, it has pretty much been defeated militarily. Now, we understand that the American attacks on the Houthis, which were so well documented a few weeks ago, have continued and have been successful. In fact, so successful that they have written the Houthi capability down to a position where Iran feels that it can no longer support them and have withdrawn all its military people back to Iran itself. I expect it is also linked to a topic that we've discussed recently about the potential for the US and Israel to strike the nuclear program in Iran. But overall, I suppose this is very welcome, because the root of most evil in the Middle East has come via Iran's proxies. They have now, in effect, become non-combatant, as it were, and ineffective. So that is certainly a good thing. I think it's also a very good thing if world shipping that has been so affected by Houthi attacks in the Red Sea and going through the Suez Canal, if that is drawn to a close, then that will be only a good thing for world peace. I think Iran realizes that actually it is very little that it can do against the US. We saw it when Iran fired 320 missiles at Israel, and the US, actually supported by British and French jets, shot down all of those missiles. That the overwhelming military firepower that the US has so vastly overmatches anything Iran has, that Iran wants to avoid having to confront it. I think it's also a realization by the mullahs in Tehran that they don't want to provoke the US any further. The last thing that Iran wants is to be attacked by the US. And there has been threats coming out of the White House recently of the potential that the US may well attack and destroy military sites in Iran, and most especially the nuclear capability. And it is that nuclear capability that really is the only thing that is keeping Iran on the world stage at the moment. It's evil proxies that have done so much damage have now all but disappeared. Its conventional army, though large, is equipped with very old tanks and aircraft, and its soldiers are not particularly well trained. So I think Iran is now realizing that it is not the force that it was a few years ago, and if the US decided to attack it, it could severely damage Iran completely. So hopefully this is an indication that Iran is going to withdraw into itself and create less mayhem around the world. We shall see. I mean, there's been much criticism of the US involvement, particularly in Ukraine, or lack of involvement, but it does appear what they've done in the Middle East to write down, particularly the Houthis, has been successful and is something that we should all be thankful for. Well, I'm sure Tehran is doing all that it can, but we know that US and Israeli jets have already destroyed a lot of air defense, particularly along some of those critical sites. Now, Iran has relied on the Russians for air defense assets, S-300s, and other capabilities in the past. But Russia is not in a position to loan or sell them any at the moment. Russia is desperately short of air defense itself, and we hear stories about Putin removing air defense assets from the front line to protect his own houses. So I think Iran is in an increasingly difficult position. No doubt it might be trying to move some of its nuclear research sites and some of its centrifuges for enriching uranium to create a nuclear bomb, move it elsewhere so that it's protected from any potential attacks. But I think Iran is in a difficult position. And what it may be doing behind closed doors is now talking to the Americans to try and defuse the situation, because the demonstration, particularly on the attacks of the Houthis, have shown that America really does have this overwhelming firepower to do what it wants when it wants, and Iran is not the military power it was a few years ago. Well, it's always very difficult to predict war and conflict in the Middle East, which has been long and bloody for many, many years. And as a soldier, it's where I spent most of my soldiering, particularly in Iraq and in Syria. But it is a positive sign, I think. Much of the mayhem has been caused by Iranian militias in Iraq and in Syria and Lebanon and Israel. Now, with them removed, one would hope there is a better chance for peace. Now, it's also clear that the Arab states have a key part to play in here, and I think most of the Arab states in the Gulf are also, quietly pleased that the Iranian militias have been made ineffective. But we will see. Hopefully, we're now in a position of diplomacy and political negotiation to create a peaceful atmosphere. But there is just a hope that the future for the Middle East might be less violent than the past.
I can't imagine them doing anything else but making a deal. I would prefer a deal to the other alternative, which I think everybody in this plane knows what that is. And that's not going to be pretty.